Is Matthew Jeffries. I'm the CEO of WarFighter Fitness, and what I want to do was kind of go over what my business is and what my goal is, what my mission is, and maybe how the community here might be able to help me move forward with that. So let's go into my goal. It's a little one, just to fundamentally change the way the military does recruiting in this country. Hashtag small goals. So let me tell you a little bit about me. So I came into the military, I was a police officer. Actually, I kind of did things a little backwards. And when I came in under a special operations contract. And so this is actually kind of where they got the inkling for the idea of my company. So I didn't know how to properly train to go ahead and get that done. And so when I was going through it, and I'd go through infantry school, and at the end of the day, I'd run around with a 100-pound backpack on my back. And what I ended up doing was actually hurting myself so bad I could not even go through the training. And so it was that kind of like lesson, that failure, I was like, God, you know, if only other people knew how to train properly for, say, the military or any of these other things, what could they do? And then, when I was writing my book, I'm very good at titles, by the way, I started learning more about the childhood obesity epidemic in this country, and I was freaked out. But then I saw where it was going to go. And here's where it is right now. 70% of 17, 25-year-olds do not meet the standard to join the military service. However, approximately 29% are ineligible due to just being overweight. That's insane. After speaking with a number of recruiters, we feel this estimate may actually be low and actually may be underreported. When I talk to local people here, they're telling me it's like 45, even 50% in some locations. Couple this with a strong economy, this makes a recruiter's job even harder to find the 29% that actually meet the standard to join. Like I said earlier, it's only going to get worse. When you look at current childhood obesity trends, you see that this is just the tip of the iceberg of this problem. It is so crazy. So what are they doing right now? They just can't do anything. Think of the life of a recruiter, right? You got this guy, he's going around, he's trying to get medical records, go to high schools, football games, get out there, hand out cards without getting yelled at or getting a bad NCOER. They simply just do not have the time to make this happen. They can't go out and train somebody, they can't bring them to the gym, they can't force them to do push-ups, they can't do any of this stuff with them. And that's where we come in. We are currently in our proof of concept stage. We just want to see how many of these kids can actually go through the program and actually lose the weight and join the military. I created this program with a couple of assumptions in mind. Number one, we would only have a 30 to 40% success rate. Seems kind of low, but when you take that on a nationwide scale, that's a big jump in the numbers. This would also be a recruiting tool. You know, one of the biggest things we talk about, and he actually kind of touched on a little bit with the podcasting there, is micro-influencers. You know, you might see a commercial or whatever, but when you see your friend actually doing it, that's when the game changes. And so I assumed that when these kids would go through, they'd share it on the social media, maybe somebody else would see it, and then want to join the program as well. Oh, one more thing. Recruiters would want to also throw all their people onto the program that they already have to keep continuity. Another big problem with recruiting is they go through MEPS, they get signed up, but then what happens? They meet that girl, they want to move, maybe things change a little bit in their life, and they end up not going through with it. Well, with this, it's another way for them to go ahead and keep in contact, keep that dream, keep that thought, keep going towards that goal they originally set. And so that was another assumption I had. So let's go over correct results so far. I was right, this will be used as a recruiting tool. Out of a sample size of 20 recruits who were told no at the recruiter's office, 2 of them actually came into the program without ever talking to one recruiter. That's a big deal, because these are people who were never in a recruiting system. They contacted me and were like, hey, I want to join. How do I do it? And one of the main reasons they didn't want to do it in the first place is because they didn't want to get told no. They knew they were overweight, or they were scared and didn't believe in themselves enough to go ahead and go to that door of that recruiter's office. So I was also correct that the recruiters would want to throw all their recruits into the program. The reason was, again, keeping that continuity before they ship out. I've had to tell them no quite a bit. However, I was wrong about a couple things. I assumed that the 30 and 40% success rate. I'm currently sitting at 125%. 2 recruits have actually completed the training successfully and currently are at basic training right now. Counting in those 2 recruits that came in outside the recruiting process, and also factoring in that I lost complete continuity with one recruit who, strangely, was one of my only recruits who were underweight. He's the one that fell off. That puts us at 125%, which is astounding. How does it work? So, once a recruit comes in the system, they get an activation email. From there, they go ahead and download our application. And then we go ahead and look at where they're at. Now, again, my program, I have a program for the Army, I have a program for the Air Force, Coast Guard, and so on. But what I don't have right now is one for the Marine Corps. But I'm working on that. I met a very nice gentleman actually from this 1 million cups thing. So far, he's helped me out with that right now. So again, they'll go ahead and put in their personal information, what they're usually doing, their personal goals, plan type. This is important. So with this, what this does is initially tells them how much they're allowed to eat per day, right? So what we're trying to go through is a slight calorie deficit that will allow them to lose 2 pounds a week. That's the end goal stage. And so, but what we also do is we get a date for when they should be done, which then we can go ahead and pass the recruiter. They can go ahead and set up a ship date for them to go to MEPS, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we also have something to hold their feet to the fire on, hey, this is our plan. This is when we're going to get done. So again, like I said, with the program, what we utilize is actually the program for each branch service. So for the Army, it's the PRT system. For the Coast Guard, it's not just 8 weeks. For the Air Force, it's their DEP program, et cetera, et cetera. And what another really good part about this is that, for the kids to go ahead and go through this program and get through it, it allows them to go ahead and train the way they're supposed to go before they even get there, which actually helps them actually get through basic training. So again, we're just going to go ahead and fast forward through all this. This is what they would see when they work out. This is an example of what their community page looks like. It's kind of like Facebook, but for fitness. And they're in there with other people who are going through the same struggle as them. So they get to go ahead and post things like their badges and everything else to their social media. What we are is a veteran-owned small business. Like I see a problem that's just not going away. We have to put a Band-Aid on this thing first and then try to work on this later at a lower elementary school level and try to hit it where it's starting out. But where we are right now is where we're at. So again, does anyone have any questions? Oh, wait, one more thing. Hold on. I'm also designing a rehab application for the Air Force. We've already gone through phase 1 with them. They like it if we go through phase 2. Hopefully we can bring that to other services as well. But now I do conclude. Question? Yep.
Might be a dumb question. So say they have 10 people who don't qualify. And they say, hey, Matt, we have these 10 guys. If you get them ready, we'll pay you $100 a guy or something. Mm-hmm. Is there something like that?
So I can go on to the method of how I want to see this going forward on more of a one-on-one basis. But right now what I'm doing is I'm just in proof of concept. And I want to prove that we can bring somebody off the street who was told no and get them to yes. So that's been really big. And just the impact on these kids being able to see and believe in themselves a little bit, to be able to know that they were able to go through and actually make this happen for themselves has been so huge. And it's been really an impact on my life too. Next question? Go ahead, Pat.
How many test users, how many people are in the program?
So right now I've got 25 in the program. Within the program itself right now, I've been keeping a very close eye on 20, and I've been keeping very strict parameters on where they're coming, where they're going. And they're going to be part of the study that I kind of want to deliver to the Department of Defense. Go ahead. Any other questions? Yes.
As you know, part of the problem is that people are afraid that they can't succeed, that they're going to struggle. And I've just recently worked with someone who was about to pass, she did pass this test.
Yeah.
I'm a mindset coach. Have you considered adding that as part of it? Because the whole believing in yourself and actually visualization, all those kind of skills that might seem a little woo-woo to some people
Sure.
actually really work.
It really does. No, I truly believe that. And I'll be honest with you, I came up with this idea in February, and here I am. And that was all through, and trust me, there's been a lot of ups and downs. One of the things I do to actually go ahead and get a kid through it is I create pressure points, right? 1, they know I'm gonna watch them. They know I'm gonna see where they're going. 2, the recruiter, hey, I'm giving them updates as well. 3, I make them share it on their social media. 1 is to go ahead and so we can get micro-influencers in there and get more people in the program. And 2, it's very easy to quit on yourself. It's not so easy to quit on yourself when you have other people watching you. And so, and I also try to get the parents involved too on the younger ones. And like I said, I mean, we're having a pretty crazy success rate on that. And there's also a lot of empowerment stuff too. I try to get continuity with these kids at least once a week. I try to keep hands off to go ahead and simulate what it might be like an out of proof concept measure. Does that answer the question? Go ahead.
What is your capacity? How many recruits would you be able to?
So I'm actually trying to figure that out right now. So I'm trying to see what it would take for one person. I'm pretty comfortable with 25. Am I going to be comfortable with 50? I don't know. I'm assuming that 50 is probably going to be where I can be at per person to coach them individually. But again, it's proving that concept out. Question? Go ahead.
Are these like templated programs that they're going through? Do you adjust it based on each individual? Do you make it individually for each?
I do not make any individual programs whatsoever. Again, these are brought from the actual branch of service based on the actual exercise program they're going to be doing once their boots hit the ground in basic training. Now, the Army has the most in-depth program where they do what's called a 1-1-1 assessment. And then from there, they have 4 different workout programs based to go ahead and work on your deficiencies. The other branches of service do not have that much in depth, especially for pre-BCT. It's mostly like these push-ups, little sit-ups. We'll jog around a little bit, but that's about it. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
You see WarFighter Fitness becoming a government prime contractor and having that contract with the DoD and each agency, or do you see a commercial path where you're engaged by the family?
So I actually see it as a two-way street. I see it as 1, a tool for the recruiter once we get that pain point in, and also 2, as a recruiting tool so that we can reach out to that individual end user and so that we can then bring them into the recruiting system. So I actually see it as a 2-platform system. Any other questions? Go ahead.
What do you see for the future in 5 years? What would your overall goal?
So in 5 years, I hope to expand the eligible pool of recruits in this country. There was actually an admiral, I was doing a report with a reporter the other day, and she told me a story about an admiral who was giving a speech over at PNS. And he said that if we had to do the draft right now, we couldn't do it. That's scary. That's really scary to me. And so that is kind of where I want to be able to do, is get more people within the program and actually have this where we're at least addressing this pain point on this time. Go ahead. Any other questions? Yep. So no, actually this is a very unique opportunity. So as the other personal trainer right there would know, one of our biggest problems as personal trainer is keeping them going, right? The difference is most people join the military not because everything's great going on in their life, okay? There's something there. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna go join in a time of war and go, run around. They're trying to prove something or something like that. And that really lights a fire into these kids, which is just something that, it's honestly, it's just something inside of themselves. Like, we call it the hua when you're first coming in, right? You're full of hua, you're ready to go, right? And these kids are just oozing that out. And so that's kind of how we keep them going. They do it themselves, to be honest. Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm kind of curious in the state of recruitment when a lot of the military recruiting right now is like a cyber workforce, which again is stereotypically headphones, dark basements,
Yeah.
kids that aren't necessarily athletically inclined, again, over stereotyping and whatever.
Sure.
But, what are you seeing, how are you seeing that trend and or that need within the military affecting the recruitment process and kind of the basic training piece?
I've been hearing a lot of rumors about them lowering standards for those individuals. And here's where I think that's a very bad idea. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your job is, doesn't matter what you do, you're a trigger puller. You might be doing the cyber warfare thing, but what happens when your base gets under attack? What are you supposed to do? These individuals need to be physically fit enough to go ahead and not only defend themselves, but defend everyone else. And so I think that when we lower the standards for enlistment, we're hurting ourselves as a nation. So, go ahead.
I'm curious where you're setting your price point, just because there's
Sure.
a connection between poverty or low income and recruitment.
So demographics, they all change, right? Everyone's got their own story. I think one of the most interesting thing is the variety of backgrounds of people that come in, right? So, take me for instance. I was a detective, and I don't know. I watched too much G.I. Joe as a kid, and I'm like, time to do it. There are other kids who, who go through a lot of trauma in life, and that this is an only way out. There's other kids who maybe partied a little bit too much in college, didn't work out, or there's other people who just have that innate patriotism that comes in. Another interesting side note on that is talking with recruiters, they've actually told me that a lot of kids that are coming in now were born kind of after that 9/11 thing, so they don't have as much of that push. And so it's been an interesting dynamic from what they've told me so far. Any other questions?
Can I tag on to that though? And this touches a little bit on the business model that you're working
Sure.
on. Is it going to be the user, the recruit that's paying for it, the recruiter that's paying for it, or maybe Travis is
So
the DoD that's paying for it?
So it's very hard to find a lot of data points on how much the military pays for each recruit, right? However, there are some interesting points of fact I've found so far. Last year, the Army needed 6,000 troops very, very badly. So they went ahead and paid $300 million in advertising to get 6,000 troops. Now let's break that down. That's $300,000 per head. And we're not talking bonuses, we're not talking about the other incentives, we're not talking about running the MEP station or driving them around or paying for the recruits, paying for the recruiting offices. That's $300 grand to put a banner just to try to get somebody who's fit enough to come in. So if that describes maybe the pricing point that I'm looking at or where the opportunity is, that's it, without getting into too much detail.
Sharing a little bit.
Yeah, just a snippet, a little bit. Go ahead. Anybody else? Any other questions? Oh,
Just call it like a phase two, kind of the same concept
Sure.
for police academy, firefighter.
I actually have phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 already planned out. Also, there is a side project I'm moving over to. I used to be a cop, so I understand that process. I don't know if you've ever done that at all before, but man, sitting in those cars, man, it's hard. It's a little rough. You start getting it's hard. It's a hard gig. But yeah, there is a thought process going into that as well, moving forward. And also for horizontal growth. Anyone else? Nope. All right. Hey, awesome. Thank you very much for having me tonight and staying by and talking to me. Go ahead. Yeah. So, sorry, getting a little ahead of myself. So, look, I've got a good concept. So far, things are really working out. It's just finding those strategic partnerships, those people who might be able to mentor me or help me throughout the process and kind of get me to where I'm going. Now, I've lived a pretty crazy and wide variety of life skills, but making this move forward and then understanding, say, the contracting space or the application space, is something that can be very valuable. And, look, it's a big, big mission I want to take on, but it's also a very big problem and it needs to get solved right now. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. Again, grab my card. I'd love to have meetings with anyone who'd like to have one, and we can go ahead and have a lunch and figure it out together, where we might help each other out. Anyways, any other questions? Nope? Good to go? Awesome. Thank you guys for having me again. Y'all have a great day.